Ladies and gents, welcome back to another Engineers podcast. Today I'm joined by some of the folks at Pigment. I'm with Ben, who's a software engineer, and Chaimaa, who's a TPM. We're going to dive into a little bit about Pigment's platform today, and a really interesting platform and some really, really interesting engineering challenges. The business itself have built a platform to ensure forecasting, planning, and using large data to really understand some complex decision making. So, guys, first and foremost, thanks for coming to join us on the pod.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolute pleasure. Who wants the luxury of introducing themselves first?
Yeah, okay, I can go first. So, hi everyone, I'm Chaimaa. I have a huge career in project management for more than 10 years actually. And since almost 2 years, I'm working even more. I'm working with Pigment as an engineer program manager. So Pigment, in a nutshell, it's a SaaS business planning platform. So maybe we can explain it later in details. And in my role, I work with multiple teams. I worked, for example, with SRE teams to create a new cluster in the US. I'm working currently with AI teams. I'm working with the teams that provide some enterprise features, for example, the test and deploy. So I'm working with multiple teams, but also on a cross-initiative team. So we have in the R&D multiple tech teams, but also product manager, designers, and support. And we work on as an EPM team on a cross initiative. So my role is basically bring it together all the effort inside the tech team and make sure that everything we want to do gets done. So this is in a nutshell my role. And it gets from coordinating all the effort with the stakeholders, making sure that we have all the requirements, that the interactions we have, the conversations happen between the stakeholders so we can take the decision, and that we provide all the support needed either to the team, the product manager, to the designer during the initiation phase, during the execution phase, and even after delivering the projects. So we do also the team management, so all the rituals, planning, retrospective, the updates to the stakeholders. So in general, working on processes, on making everything during the implementation smooth with the tech team. So this is in a nutshell.
Nice. Ben?
Hi, I'm Ben. I'm a software developer at Pigment. I've been a developer for my entire career for over 10 years now, a long time. I work on a specific team in Pigment around presenting data to end users, and I'm the tech lead on the team. And maybe later we'll discuss a bit what that means. A lot of my work at the moment is focused on the responsiveness of our platform, particularly in the back end. But I work with full stack engineers and product managers as well to flesh out features.
Yeah, we do have some really interesting topics to explore, and I think uncovering more about those engineering challenges is one of our topics. But we're going to be talking a little bit about how teams are mobilized. So there's lots of really, really interesting things that we're going to dive into. Can we talk a little bit more about Pigment and maybe set the scene for our audience and understand the core business of what Pigment do? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. So Pigment, as I said, is a business planning platform. So we can say that up to few years, we have only very rigid and very complicated tools used in the planification or in the EPM world, and everything around in the software world was really evolving, but the planning platform or tools was not. And this is what Pigment is actually are doing for the planning world. So I can say that Pigment is the next generation of the integrated business planning platform. It provides the organization with all the tools needed so they can adapt and do and have a strategic plan and took effective decisions in a very intuitive way. So the Pigment is a platform which is collaborative. So we have multiple users collaborating at the same time in the platform. We have also data integration. So we integrate all the data and we allow the collaborative work in the teams. So connecting data from all the different teams in an organization, for example, sales, finance, HR, and other examples, in a centralized database, which is Pigment in this case. And we try to provide, and we provide actually a comprehensive view of all this data. So we have also, as Ben said, visualization of this data. So it's not only centralized and consolidate all the data, but also offering visualization and dashboards so users can really see what is happening and can do all the deep dive into these views so they can take the decision effectively. So this is what we do as a main key feature we are delivering to the users. But also we have other tools, for example, the what if scenario, so we can offer to the users the what if scenario, what is the best case scenario, what is the worst case scenario, so they can compare actually their planning. And we have multiple clients for now. We have Klarna, we have PVH, we have Figma, we have Poshmark, and we have really big clients and companies using Pigment in their planning lifecycle. And yeah.
The thing that I absolutely loved is I think the consolidation of the platform and the real-time nature of the platform and how you're able to actually provide complexity in a seamless way to users to be able to make really good business decisions is something that I loved. Not even speaking to you guys yet, this is going back some months. On the surface of things, I thought, what an interesting business from what I understand. And obviously it's evident Figma and the like are using you guys to solve some of those challenges for themselves. Go for it, Ben.
I was just going to say that one of the things that I found really interesting is the flexibility of the platform allows it to be used for multiple different use cases. And having all of those use cases on a single platform makes the integration between them really seamless. So it might be helpful to look at an example for say you've got a plan already, perhaps using Pigment for your sales targets for over the next year or the next 2 years. Within Pigment, that can feed through into your sales performance management plans, and you can then compare like how many salespeople you have at the moment, what sort of attainment they're getting against your plans, and then maybe you see a mismatch there, and you say, oh, actually, in order to meet these plans, we're going to need more salespeople, and that can then feed through sort of almost in real time to your workforce planning and to your HR use cases for Pigment. And so HR can then see that there's a gap there, and some hiring needs to take place or something. And I think it's a really almost unique capability to be able to do all of this on a single platform.
Engineering this is what I find fascinating. We're going to go into some of the engineering stuff in the next couple of moments, but engineering something like this I find incredible. I want to go under the hood a little bit, understand more about some of the challenges around performance engineering. And I know I'm going to be coming back to you, Ben. So it would be really good to just have like an overarching understanding of what are some of the performance engineering challenges that if you were to go and look inside of Pigment, you're likely to find.
So I think we can sort of split these into two different categories. There's when people say performance, there's performance in terms of responsiveness, and performance in terms of scalability of the platform. So for responsiveness, this is most obvious in like the UI responsiveness. Like it's quite easy to make a very simple web app, very responsive. Like you click a button, you see a change very quickly. But that gets a lot harder when you have a complex application like Pigment, which is displaying a lot of data to users in multiple different formats with like really beautiful graphics. And you expect to be able to like mouse over them, and you get a tooltip explaining the data. You want to be able to hide and then view maybe a common thread. You want to pivot the data again responsively. So a lot of effort goes into the front end engineering, just in terms of optimizing, say for example, the pivoting algorithm. Like how can we all these cells? How can we rearrange them sort of seamlessly? But there's other elements to it too. There's the data that users get shown is often the result of quite complex calculations. And these are very challenge optimized because they're user defined calculations, and we allow them to combine different ones. So, for example, you can offset data. Maybe you want to compare this year's data against last year's, or this year's against last quarter's, or something like that. You can filter it, you can sort it. So we need to be able to do these quickly enough that users can see it in almost real time. So a budget there is sort of less than a second for simpler views and a couple of seconds for much larger data sets. But we also want data changes. So previously we were talking about looking at static data, but if a user inputs data either from an integration or the UI, for example, some clients use Pigment to do like shift scheduling. So the individual users will go into Pigment and say which shifts they want to work on or don't want to work on. And this then will feed through to other views. So, for example, a manager then might have an integrated view showing everyone's shifts and seeing where there's a mismatch. So we need to make sure that data gets passed through as quickly as possible, so that the sort of app feels up to date and the sort of data trustworthy.
Those two challenges, responsiveness and scale.
Yeah.
Can I ask which one's more challenging, and why do you think it's more challenging?
So right now, for me, the responsiveness is almost entirely what I'm working on. This is at this stage of Pigment's journey as a sort of scale up. It's much more important in the short term because it's what wins us customers. Like if we can show customers that actually you've got all this data, but you put it into Pigment, you can understand it because you can iterate more quickly because it's so fast to show you the results of any changes you make, and it gives you a really great UX because you input some data and you see the results almost immediately. And this is like a real big change from some older solutions people had, which are either spreadsheet based or report based, and the reports might only run once a day, if that. So like you'd make a change and that's not reflected in the results. So Pigment allows a much faster sort of business, much faster decision making, and the responsiveness is really what enables that. The scalability is also important, but mostly for Pigment's sustainability as a company and our cost structure, because we're fortunate that not all our scalability problems, but a lot of them we can sort of push down the line a bit by spending more money on infrastructure, throwing more compute at the problems. But this obviously isn't something that we can do forever to sort of run a sustainable company.
Got you. Yeah, they do require two different ways of engineering. Just speaking to businesses over the last few years podcasting, we've touched on performance engineering, large umbrella, but whether that is scale, whether that is responsiveness, they're two tough challenges. I think when we actually look at some of the businesses that Pigment are integrating with and delivering for their customers, Figma, PVH, and the like, it'd be good to get a gauge on what volumes of data we're talking about here.
Mhm. Yeah. So we are fortunate, I suppose, as this is often the case for SaaS companies, but uh, all our customers are like independent. Like we don't want one's data isn't relevant to client two, and in fact, they can never see each other's data. Um, so we can sort of horizontally scale very well. Um, and outside of the metadata which we have, which is like defines the various organizations and like what users they have and authorization and that sort of thing, um, we can run one clans on one set of infrastructure and another clans on another set, and in fact for different clients we have slightly different infrastructure, like for example the databases we use depends on the client's usage patterns, so that we can give them a great experience. So the important and that metadata is measured in like gigabytes rather than terabytes. So we use Postgres for that, and it works great. It's like as long as we follow good engineering practices, there's not really an issue there.
Yeah, I'd love to touch on some engineering practices later, for sure.
So the real sort of challenge for us is scaling individual clients. So when a new client comes in and they want to put in more data than before, or they want to do more frequent inputs than before, this is where we run into challenges. So far, we've generally been able to solve them, provide a good experience, but it's always something exciting. And the data there can get into the terabytes per customer. If you start including backups, it can be like quite a lot of terabytes. But this isn't like data warehousing scale, but it's also a lot more than like an awful lot more than you could do in spreadsheets.
Yeah, it's nuts when you actually think about it. But it makes sense around the horizontal scaling, based on what you were saying around each individual client. You serve their data to them independently. So it makes total sense. Chaimaa, it'd be good to understand how you go and make sense of this data, if you like, to really provide some operational insights that your customers can use so they can forecast and plan. Be really good to get a sense on that.
Yeah, so as I explained when talking about Pigment, we have three parts. We have the data integration, we have the modeling part, and we have the visualization part. So for the data integration, we integrate with various data sources. We have connection with multiple tools. We have APIs. We can also like download data from CSVs. So we have a lot of connection possible. So we can consolidate all the data into our centralized platform. So this is the first thing we solve as an issue, to have all the data in a single platform. And the second thing, which is we provide the real-time update, as Ben explained. So in the platform, we do a continuous update and we sync data in a real time. So whenever you have a change, it reflected right away either on the dashboard, on the views that is shown to the user. So this means that we allow and we offer to the user the fact to work with the most current and the most updated information in Pigment. And this is really crucial because you offer an accurate but also rapid forecasting and planning. We have also multiple modeling tools. Maybe we didn't mention, but in Pigment, you have a big part which is modeling, as you structure your data. So you explain or you decide how you want to structure your model. The model can differ from a company to another, from a use case to another. A model for HR is not the same for finance. So we offer these modeling tools, and we have also a formula language in Pigment. So in Pigment, we have our own formula language. As what you can see, for example, in Excel, you can create formulas, so you can aggregate data in a certain way. We have the same in Pigment. You can create your formula, so you can aggregate, filter, do a lot of modification on the data we integrate at the beginning. But we have also the scenario, which is really, really a crucial part, and it allows user to identify what is the trends, what is the outcomes, predict maybe the outcomes, and have like a direct impact on the business decision. So all of this like have a really direct and rapid impact on the decision. And after all this consolidation and modeling and computation part, we offers interactive dashboard. So we have a clear and comprehensive insight, as I said, but the users also can easily customize the views. And this is what Ben is working on, is you have a view, but you want to customize it in your own way. You want to do pivoting, you want to do sorting. And we are talking about millions of cells. It's not like a table with hundreds of data. We have talking about millions of cells that you can aggregate and project on a different way. You can filter, you can sort, you can share with other users. And also, which is something important, when a user inputs something, so when they add data, it's trigger a whole graph of computation that impact all the data in the application. So let's imagine you have a user and you ask them to input their expenses for their department for this month, and they input this data. Well, afterward, you have a whole graph of computation that is triggered, and it will impact a lot of other metrics, and at the end provide in a few seconds or few minutes the direct real-time information to the users that will do the decision. So we see this in a real time, and I think this is how Pigment is different from other tools or other platform, I could say, in the planning world.
The thing that I love, and by the way, I think the three pillars really embody Pigment's ethos around complex decisions simplified, because what you've just told me there about your three pillars, there is so much data across multiple different sources, and trying to deliver that responsively to your customers is critical to a decent working business, of course. But the thing that I love is, in Pigment, we are this. In Pigment, we are ABC, as an example. It would be really good to touch on what are some principles that you follow. What is the way of doing things and the mindset of things at Pigment? Because you guys do sound really unique in the way in which you're building stuff and solving problems. So it would be good to uncover some of that.
It should be the client is our first concern. So everything we do is to make the clients happy. So we need to structure the tech team work so we can deliver what we promise the client, or deliver like the high quality platform we have. And we work with very, very talented people. This is something that everyone in Pigment can tell you. And this was the philosophy when Pigment was built. I think the first thing we talked about is having really very talented and reliable people, because we trust people in Pigment. We work with a remote person. Everyone like handle their work as they could, and we trust people, and we need people who are really, really involved in Pigment, and very talented people. And this is I think this is one of the things we are really proud about in Pigment. And specifically, if we talk about the tech team, so we have in a random tech team, you can have first the product manager. Some teams doesn't have the product manager. For example, the SRE team, which is taking care of the infrastructure and the DevOps part, does not have a product manager. But the product manager is really the voice of the product roadmap, the voice of the customers, and they are doing all the discovery and working with the client closely so we can deliver the value to the client. This is the most important thing, is deliver really the value and not just adding features and features on Pigment. And product manager are really the key in this process, if I could say. They are really working closely with the team. So we have product managers that are more strategy, but we have also product managers that are really involved in the delivery. And this is something which is a game changer, because they are really working every day with the devs. They are answering the question. They are really present. They are available to take the decision rapidly, to answer every question. We have also the product designer, and product designer in Pigment are not just designers that deliver Figma or mockups. They are really a key in Pigment, because we have a whole UI which is intuitive, very modern, and they are really playing a key role in this in this process. So they do also the discovery with the products, and sometimes they are really the product manager of some features, because they knew very well how the interaction with the end user should be. So they are really first class product designer, doing the whole discovery, taking into account the technical challenges. So they are able to have really technical discussion with the devs, so we can reach something which is feasible and which is answering the customer need. We have also the tech lead. So Ben is a tech lead, for example, of the team responsible of visualization. And in every team, this is mandatory. In every team, we have tech lead. But you should know that tech lead in Pigment is not an engineering manager. He's not responsible of the team members. They have their own engineering managers. They don't work actually all the time with their engineering managers. The technical lead has really a responsibility of managing the team workload and the team quality of work. So he can work on the technical roadmap. He can work on a key problematics or technical challenges in the team. He makes sure that everyone in the team has something to add in the team, to have topic owners of each features we do, and to guarantee that we have really and we deliver quality work in Pigment. And this is really, really important. And we can have one or two technical lead depending on the team and how it's structured. Sometimes we want to separate the front part from the back end part, because the expertise, we need really a big and profound expertise in the field. And we have also the team members, the devs, that do the work and that deliver the features they are starting really from the product discussion to doing the designs, the RFC, to discuss with the designer, to present to the other dev teams, other tech teams, if they have any other opinion to give, to do the implementation, but also afterward the production, because we need to make that to make sure that the production is up and running. So they are doing also the firefighting in the team, and we have the also the possibility. So we encourage the devs to do cross R&D initiatives, so they can work actually on project or problematics or anything that concern the whole R&D team. And we have the EPM. So EPM are not in all the teams. It depends on the needs. So we try to see where we need an EPM, and we work with multiple teams. So if I can say, it's mainly the project enablement. So we can say that the product manager are doing the what and why. The technical lead and the team is doing the how and the who in the dev, and the EPM is responsible of enabling all of this between the product roadmap and the technical implementation.
Got you. The EM role is slightly different to a traditional EM role, as I understand it. It'd be good to touch on that and maybe the decisions as to why that was made.
So I can't speak so much as to why the decision was made, I think remembering something one of our co-founders said is that because he's a successful startup co-founder before. He was one of the founders of Critio, which has had great success. And so he's seen a lot of the ways that an engineering team can grow, both there and other roles. And I believe he was trying to avoid some of the pitfalls he saw there when they came up with this setup. But anyway, the setup is that the engineering manager is very much like a coach for their reports. So they're there to help them succeed, both in their sort of immediate work, working with their team and on their product, and also sort of in their career, so helping them get to the next step, talking to them to define uh, what they need to achieve in order to get that next promotion or to get that next the next step up in the career ladder. And that'll be much like it would be for a traditional one. It's defined against like a competency matrix. You will need to be you need to be showing like evidence of like having had certain sort of impacts, that sort of thing. But they're very focused around that. They don't have to worry about like say product decisions that their reports are working on or something like that.
I think organizational structure is fascinating at the moment. So many different companies are taking so many different organizational structures. And I think if you have the experience of a co-founder who has seen the successes and pitfalls of a particular way of building something, then you have to trust that if that's been successful. There are many others, as in CTO or CPO or the CPTO role, and they take a different structure in organizations. So there's many different ones at the moment. So I think it's refreshing to see a slightly different way of doing things, and it's successful, which is important.
Yeah, and you should know that at the beginning we started as a flat organization. So before, at the beginning, when Pigment was a startup, we didn't need all this discussion because there was like few devs participating at the beginning. So it was a flat organization, everyone reporting to our CEO, who is Romain. And then you see, when you start scaling, you need to introduce a bit of structure, and you need some of the developers need, and not only the developers, the EPMs, the product manager, everyone need to handle their career path. And this is why we introduced engineering managers and managers, so they can focus only on the career path of the person. It's really mainly a people management. It's not technical lead working with their reports, so they can uh, force some technical or some product decision. So we have technical leads who are not having a hierarchical relation with team members. So convincing people to do something in a certain way need to be really solid. So you cannot like force people to do things in a certain way. You need to have a solid discussion, and this is what help us remain at high quality, because choosing our way of doing things is a crucial, and we need to have an open, really open discussion. And this is what happened with this organization up to now. And even the engineering managers are contributors themselves, so they really contribute in the code. So they are working in other teams coding, but also doing people management and career management of the devs in other teams.
I think it's interesting to think about how the right organizational structure or engineering structure for a team can depend on the makeup of the team. For example, like Pigment tries to have people who are quite independent, sort of self-starters who can like take accountability for a project and deliver it, sort of not on their own, but they could make sure it happens. And we have a fairly high sort of senior to junior ratio. So both of these are things which helps this structure work for us. Whereas if you like had a different team structure, you might want to take different team makeup. You might want to pick a different team structure to make sure that really worked for the people in the team and for the company.
Like it. Yeah, I like it. Well, where would you both say your biggest challenges are at the moment? They could be slightly different answers, by the way.
I can go.
Yeah.
Like at the moment, the biggest challenges for like me and my work, and I think for the whole of the team, are really just like bandwidth and technical ones. Like I think we've got like the right people working on the right problems. It's just solving them and getting our solutions out to the customers quickly. Which are problems, and that's like I think really great. That's where you want to be as an engineer. Is like your biggest problems are the ones you want to work on, not something that's like not some personnel or HR or something like that.
Now, of course, we were going to talk about some challenges around. They're not problems; they're challenges, and I'm sure nice to have challenges around scalability and concurrence, and we can touch on those because I think they're very interesting to the problems that you're solving for customers. So, should we touch back on those?
Yeah. So we talked a bit about the sort of performance and scalability challenges earlier, and there's a couple of things which are maybe not unique to Pigment, but are quite particular. So a very common thing for users in Pigment is to open up a dashboard and expect to see some data displayed there. This data is calculated and comes from some data which is in a database or a data store somewhere. And it's the user's own data. So a very common solution to making this scalable, if it's a lot of data with complex calculations applied, would be to apply caching at some level. So instead of having to do a full read from a database and then applying calculations and processing, you can feed the data from the cache, and then there's problems around cache invalidation and stuff, but they're sort of well-known problem space. However, Pigment has very granular and very flexible access rights. We have like full row-based access control. Although because it's a cube, it's like when we say a row, this can be along any dimension of the cube. In fact, or it can be along multiple dimensions. And these can vary per user. So it's very difficult to come up with a caching solution that will work in general. Like there are quite a lot of user workspaces where they don't take full advantage of that flexibility. So maybe we could come up with some caching solution, but it wouldn't work for the hardest cases. So this really forces us to work on the fundamental performance of the platform and like the efficiency of the calculations and our data storage. Yeah, so that's quite interesting because like a lot of that performance just wouldn't matter if we could just stick a cache in front of it. But unfortunately, in many cases, we can't. But there's an interesting sort of product decision there where like they could have said early, okay, instead of offering this like highly flexible access rights functionality, we're going to forbid that and say, right, we're going to come up with something that can be cached. But that isn't what fitted our users' needs. And people do use the access rights. So just to make it clear, the access rights means that say you're a country manager for Germany, your workspace admin can set it up so that you can see the data from Germany, but not the data from France, even though you're looking at the same dashboards.
On my side, currently, really right now, I can think of two challenges. The first one is that we are scaling our R&D team. So we are working with our head of engineering to make things going smooth, because when you double your effective, you need to make sure that everything is working well, how you can do the interviews, how the onboarding needs to go well without impacting maybe the velocity of the teams, how you can make sure that everyone has something to do. So scaling everything with it, the product roadmap, the technical roadmap, the designer also bandwidth. So there is a whole stream about scaling our R&D, which is taking us sometimes currently, but we are working with our head of engineering, and we have a lot of people involved in this because we want to welcome the new team member in the right way. The second challenge, which is AI, because I'm currently working with the AI team, and as you may know, it's a really very recent thing. So integrating with Gen AI, it's recent. You don't like you see a lot of things, but it's still recent. The guidelines, the processes, the best strategies, the frameworks, everything around it, it's still recent, and we don't have enough feedback. And it's not about only doing the classic chatbot that is focusing on your content or on some specific field, which is what all the companies I can say is doing first. We are really trying to solve real challenges with Gen AI. For example, how the end user who doesn't know what exists in the planning of its organization in Pigment can query and can see the right data. So I'm not familiar with what the models do, and I need to see the data really right away. I need to see my expenses in my teams during the last month, and I don't want to lose a lot of clicks and a lot of going in the application, so I can find the right data. And we need to provide something which is what we call text to view. So we just need to query what we want to see, and we generate this view with the right pivoting, the right filtering, the right sorting, the right everything you need to show you the really accurate data you need. But also how you can analyze the data you found. So as I said earlier, when you have this view, you need to pivot, but you need also to drill down so you can analyze what is happening in your planning. You can say, what is my expenses is high this month in my team. So you need to drill down and see what is this outlier that making my expenses high. And we want to automate this with Gen AI. So we have a lot of features, and I'm really, really proud to work with this team because they are really doing an incredible work. And this is one of the big challenges I have currently in Pigment.
Good. I was actually going to be funny, or at least I think I was funny, and so I don't know what AI is, but I get told on a daily basis that I'm not funny, so I'll save my jokes for me. But I think it's really interesting speaking to lots of different organizations. They're trying to understand where AI can add value to their business at the moment. So it looks as if you're on that journey and you're understanding where Gen AI can actually be applied to give value back to your customers. So I love that. And challenge number one probably leads us on to my next question. You're a fast growing business, solving some really interesting technical challenges, solving some really interesting people challenges. I think it would be really good to understand, where's the business growing? What skill sets are you looking for? What kind of people are you looking for? And this is your opportunity to talk to the audience and say, come and work at Pigment.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're hiring, I think, almost all roles within the engineering team. The engineering hiring is either as a not generic engineer, but we have a sort of single career path for either back end, full stack, or front end engineers, or as a SRE. And so the SRE role obviously has slightly different experience expectations. And I'm not sure, Chaimaa will probably know, but if there's any open PM or EPM roles.
Yes, actually, it's the case. We are looking also for product managers and engineering program managers, and even product designers as well. Yeah.
So basically, every role imaginable. Pigment, we're hiring for that.
Basically, every role imaginable. Locations?
So Pigment's based in France. The head engineering office is in Paris. There is some flexibility for remote work. Like I work remotely, and we do have a couple of employees in England. So like people can apply from there. Obviously, if you're working remotely, you're expected to be able to come into the office fairly regularly. But it's like a very, very remote friendly environment, I'd say. And even people that work in the office, it's sort of hybrid, like they will come in 3 or 4 days a week or something. Chaimaa, how often do you go in? You're based in Paris.
Yeah, it depends, but I try to come once or twice a week, so just to have this social interaction. But we have a lot of people actually who are not based in Paris, but all over France, and even, as Ben said, in the UK. Yeah.
And one actually thing that you mentioned is that despite being a French company, almost all the work is done in English. Which actually is like a really great opportunity for people that live in France, but are maybe sort of recent immigrants there, have recently moved there from somewhere, and sort of want to be able to work in a language they're more familiar with while they improve their French. And it's got a very interesting bit. Also worth mentioning is like we have offices in Canada and New York. I don't believe they are hiring engineers at the moment.
Not for the moment.
But they are hiring for other roles, for example, sales. So if you're interested in them as well, it's worth considering.
But I think for people listening, a wide array of roles open across R&D, tech functions, a fast-growing business solving some really interesting challenges, very product focused, and you can see that by obviously the business itself, the problems that they're solving for customers, but how you mobilize your teams, very, very product and customer centric. So people listening, if you're very interested in joining a business like Pigment, below is the career site. You can also check out Ben and Chaimaa's LinkedIn profiles and reach out to those guys directly. I want to say a massive thanks to both of you for coming to join us. Talk to us a little bit about what you're both building for Pigment, and both seriously interesting problem spaces. I can't wait to see where the business goes in the next 12 months, doing some very interesting things. We might be here in the next 12 months talking again about what you guys are doing. But a massive thank you from everyone at Engineers. We do really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and thank you for the invitation. And hope we'll see a lot of people applying. Welcome to Pigment. I think that you will be glad to work with the very talented people. And we still have a lot to do. We did maybe 1% of what we want to do, and we still have a lot of challenges and a lot of things to deliver.
Good. I think that's probably the best ending pitch that someone's ever done, by the way. So, Chaimaa, thank you. Like Chaimaa said, for people listening, likes, shares, applications, everything is welcome. We pride ourselves on being global, creating an ecosystem where people can share. And that's exactly what the guys have done at Pigment. So a big thank you, and thanks from everyone at Engineers. Off now.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Engineers is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found engineers.io. It's no underscore. We've also got a website, which is engineers.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.